The screen of Jake's tablet wasn't just cracked. It looked like a spiderweb designed by a furious god. Jagged lines radiated from the epicenter, distorting the cruel image still glowing beneath the splintered glass. A photoshopped picture of my 12-year-old son, Jacob, superimposed onto a cartoon character known for being spectacularly clumsy and universally mocked. The caption, in mocking neon green font, screamed Jake the Joke, gravity's favorite victim, and everyone's punching bag. Below it, a torrent of comments, hundreds of them, a digital feeding frenzy of pure malice. LOL. Did he trip over his own shadow again? Someone get this loser a helmet. And maybe a personality. Jake, the joke needs to switch schools, preferably one on another planet. Bet his mom dresses him in the dark. Loser fruit rotten apple. My blood didn't boil. It crystallized into shards of ice in my veins. I stood frozen in the doorway of Jake's bedroom, the silence screaming louder than any of those hateful words. He was curled on his bed, facing the wall, shoulders hunched under his worn NASA hoodie, the one he'd practically lived in since his dad walked out 3 years ago. He wasn't crying. He was terrifyingly still. The only sound was the frantic hammering of my own heart against my ribs. This wasn't the first time. The snide remarks whispered just loud enough for him to hear in the cafeteria. The accidental shoves in the hallway that sent his books flying. The exclusion from group projects, the fake invites to parties, the relentless whispering campaigns orchestrated by the undisputed queen bees of Ridgewood Middle School's 7th grade, Chloe Davenport and her lieutenant, Harper Vance. But this was a new level of vicious. This was public execution in the digital coliseum. Jake? My voice sounded strange, scraped raw. Honey? He flinched but didn't turn. Go away, Mom. I crossed the small room in 2 strides, my hand hovering over his shoulder before I let it rest. Featherlight, talk to me. Please. He finally rolled over. His face, usually alight with curiosity about nebulas or the possibility of life on Europa, was pale and drawn. Dark circles bruised the skin beneath his red-rimmed eyes. He looked defeated. A hollow ache opened up in my chest, vast and cold. It's everywhere, Mom, he whispered, his voice thick. The Jake the Joke page. They made it last night. It's got pictures, bad ones, things I never. He choked, unable to continue. Everyone's seen it. Everyone. The tablet lay between us, the cracked screen a grotesque monument to his humiliation. I picked it up, the glass shards biting faintly into my thumb. I scrolled. The cruelty was breathtaking. Stolen. Awkward photos from school events. Gym class mishaps blown out of proportion. Memes ridiculing his quietness. His love for astronomy. Probably talks to aliens 'cause no human wants to talk to him. There were even manipulated images implying things I knew with absolute certainty were lies. My sweet, gentle boy, painted as a pariah. Rage, cold and purposeful, began to thaw the icy dread in my chest. This wasn't just kid stuff. This was warfare. And the generals weren't just Chloe and Harper. It was their mothers. Stacy Davenport, the impeccably groomed real estate mogul who chaired every PTA committee with an iron fist and a dazzling veneer of philanthropy, and Brenda Vance, her fiercely loyal sidekick, whose social currency was derived solely from her proximity to Stacy. They curated their children's social standing like priceless art collections. Chloe's bullying wasn't a flaw. It was a feature, nurtured in the hothouse of their privilege and entitlement. I'd tried the right way. Oh, how I'd tried. Meetings with the indifferent principal, Mr. Henderson, who mumbled about peer dynamics and conflict resolution. Emails to Stacy and Brenda met with polite dismissals. Girls will be girls, Ella, and Jacob just needs to toughen up a bit, don't you think? A formal complaint to the school board buried under bureaucratic sludge. They operated with impunity, shielded by their money, their connections, their perfectly manicured facades. Looking at Jake's shattered expression, feeling the jagged edge of the broken screen, something snapped. A quiet, terrifying resolve settled over me. They wanted a war? Fine. But they weren't fighting a scared kid anymore. They were fighting his mother, and I wasn't playing by their rules anymore. The right way had failed, spectacularly. It was time for the sweet way, the sweetest revenge. "Give me your phone, Jake," I said, my voice unnervingly calm. He blinked, confused. "Why?" "Trust me." I held out my hand. Reluctantly, he fished his cheap prepaid phone from his pocket. I took it, along with the shattered tablet. "Get some rest. This," I gestured to the devices, "ends tonight." I walked out, closing his door softly. In my own small, tidy kitchen, a stark contrast to the Davenport's marble monstrosity, I brewed a pot of strong coffee. Not for caffeine, but for the ritual. The familiar scent grounded me as I formulated a plan. Direct confrontation was useless. Going public without irrefutable proof would just paint me as the hysterical single mom. No, I needed to strike where they were strongest. Their meticulously crafted images. I needed to make them taste the humiliation they'd force-fed my son. I needed leverage. My own social media presence was minimal. A few photos of Jake, nature shots, the occasional book recommendation. But I knew their world. Stacy Davenport lived on Instagram. Her feed was a curated fantasy, designer outfits, blessed, stage family moments, perfect life, glamorous charity galas, giving back, interspersed with subtle and not so subtle boasts about Chloe's achievements, proud mama, future leader. Brenda Vance mirrored Stacy's every post with sycophantic enthusiasm. Their online personas were their armor and their currency. My first move was reconnaissance. I created a meticulously anonymous Instagram account, Suburban Observer. Profile pic, a generic flower. Bio, quietly watching the garden grow. I followed Stacy, Brenda, their close circle, the school's official accounts, and local community groups. I absorbed everything, their routines, their vanity hashtags, their thinly veiled criticisms of others, their humble brags. I noted Stacy's weekly Wednesday self-care spa appointments, Brenda's Friday power walks with her equally gossipy friends, Chloe's expensive equestrian lessons every Saturday morning. The next day, I started phase 1, undermining the narrative. Whenever Stacy posted a perfect family photo, Suburban Observer would post a carefully chosen anonymous comment on a local community forum thread or a relevant Facebook group. Not directly accusatory, but suggestive. Under a post about the PTA fundraiser Stacy organized, heard the silent auction items were amazing, though some wonder if the focus is more on the glamour than the actual funds reaching the kids in need. Just chatter, of course. Under Brenda's boast about Harper's flawless report card, Harper Vance is certainly bright. Shame some of her energy isn't channeled into fostering a more inclusive environment at Ridgewood. Just an observation from a concerned parent. The comments were subtle, plausible deniability built in. But they were like pebbles dropped into a still pond. Ripples started. People began to notice. Whispers started at school pickup, murmured over lattes. Did you see that comment? What did they mean about the fundraiser? Is Harper really that mean? Stacy and Brenda reacted predictably. Stacy posted a defiantly sunny photo of herself and Chloe, volunteering at a soup kitchen, humble community love. Brenda went on a ranting spree in a private moms group, decrying anonymous trolls and jealous people trying to tear down good work. Their defensiveness was delicious. They were rattled, but it wasn't enough. Jake was still coming home pale and silent, the Jake the Joke page still active, though slightly less brazen. I needed bigger ammunition. Phase 2 involved deeper infiltration. I needed access to their world, to the conversations that happened behind closed doors, away from the sanitized Instagram feed. My opportunity came with the annual Ridgewood Fall Festival, a major event heavily sponsored by Davenport Realty. Stacy would be front and center, of course, overseeing everything. Brenda would be glued to her side. Volunteers were desperately needed. I volunteered. Not for a glamorous role, but for the grunt work, setting up tables, hauling hay bales, manning the utterly chaotic ticket booth. It was hot, sweaty, thankless work, perfect, invisible. I wore old jeans, a faded Ridgewood Boosters t-shirt, my hair pulled back in a practical ponytail. I became part of the background noise. And background noise hears everything. I overheard Stacy snapping at a volunteer coordinator about the placement of the Davenport Realty banner. It needs prime visibility, Susan. Do I have to do everything myself? I heard Brenda whispering venomously to another mom about a teacher she deemed too lenient with kids who weren't college material. See, I saw Stacy accept a hefty cash donation for the silent auction from a local contractor bidding on a lucrative school renovation project. Her smile dazzling, her handshake firm, a whispered, "I'm sure we can ensure your bid gets the appropriate consideration," hanging in the air. But the golden moment came during a lull near the ticket booth. Stacy and Brenda, momentarily hidden by a large inflatable pumpkin, thought they were alone. Brenda was complaining about the cost of Harper's new show-jumping saddle. "It's obscene, Stace. Almost $5,000. Mark is having kittens. Says the business is tight this quarter." Stacy sighed, sipping her designer water. "Brenda, darling, you have to project success. Harper needs that saddle to compete at Briarwood next month. It's an investment in her future. Besides," she lowered her voice conspiratorially, "remember that little adjustment on the property taxes for the Elm Street listing? That covered Chloe's dress for the gala last month with plenty left over. Just be creative. Find a way. Mark doesn't need to know the details. Men rarely understand the nuances of social capital." Brenda giggled nervously. "I suppose you're right. You always are. Maybe I can lose the receipt for that plumbing repair." My blood ran cold, then hot. Tax fraud? Creative accounting? This wasn't just social climbing. This was potentially criminal. I committed every word, every inflection, to memory. This was my dynamite. Phase 3 required a new weapon. I created another anonymous Instagram account, but this one had a different flavor. I called it Queen Bee Confessions. The profile pic was a stark, sharp-edged graphic of a cracked golden honeycomb. The bio simply read, "The hive sees all. The hive knows all. Time to tell." I didn't post immediately. I let the account sit for a few days, gaining a few curious followers, likely people who'd seen Suburban Observer's comments. The anticipation built. Then, on a Wednesday afternoon, precisely when Stacy would be blissed out under a mud mask at Serenity Spa, I launched my first missile. It wasn't about the tax fraud yet. That was the nuclear option. I started with social hypocrisy. I posted a screenshot. It was a snippet from a private Facebook group for Ridgewood moms, a group I'd painstakingly gained access to using a carefully crafted persona weeks earlier. The screenshot showed a comment from Brenda Vance, posted just a week after Stacy's gushing, humble community love soup kitchen post. Brenda was ranting about the homeless problem downtown, calling it disgusting and a blight, suggesting they should be bussed somewhere else. I blurred other names but left Brenda's profile, picture and name, crystal clear. The Queen Bee Confessions caption was simple: humble servant or heartless hypocrite? The Hive wonders. Ridgewood realities behind the filter. The effect was instantaneous. The post started getting shared, locally, rapidly. Comments flooded Queen Bee Confessions, which I monitored obsessively from a secure, anonymized connection. OMG, is that Brenda Vance? Wow, talk about two-faced. Remember Stacy's soup kitchen post? Guess charity only looks good on Instagram. Brenda freaked. Her personal Facebook became a frantic flurry of deleted comments and defensive posts about being taken out of context. Stacy remained silent, but I knew the spa serenity was shattered. I waited 2 days, let the storm brew. Then I dropped the second bomb, another screenshot. This time, it was a direct message exchange I'd cleverly extracted from a chatty mom in the private group who loved to complain about Stacy. It showed Stacy Davenport herself last year, bad-mouthing the very teacher Chloe now had for English, calling her incompetent and past her prime, and suggesting she be pushed into early retirement. This was after Stacy had publicly praised that same teacher on the PTA page for her dedication. The caption, PTA President Perfect Parent, or Poisonous Politician, the Hive remembers, Ridgewood Mom's truth hurts. The whispers turned into a roar. Parents started questioning Stacy's leadership. The teacher involved, a beloved veteran, received an outpouring of support. Stacy's carefully constructed facade was cracking. She posted a vague, rambling message about misinterpretations and focusing on the children, but the damage was done. Her Instagram engagement plummeted. Jake reported a shift at school. Chloe and Harper seemed subdued, less overtly cruel. The Jake the Joke page went mysteriously quiet, but it wasn't gone. And the hollowness in Jake's eyes hadn't fully receded. I needed the final blow. I needed them to feel the gut-punch humiliation Jake had endured. I needed them exposed, vulnerable, their precious social currency rendered worthless. It was time for the tax fraud. I crafted the Queen Bee Confessions post meticulously. I didn't have recorded proof, just my word. But I presented it not as accusation, but as a pointed question, a whispered rumor given terrifying plausibility by the previous revelations. I described the fall festival overheard conversation exactly, the location, the timing, the details about the saddle cost, Stacy's chilling advice about the Elm Street listing adjustment. I didn't name names in the text initially, but the implications were crystal clear. The caption was a masterstroke of insinuation, creative accounting or community theft. The Hive overhears disturbing whispers. When does funding a perfect life cross the line? Ridgewood PTA follow the money, asking for a friend. Then, in the comments below the post, after letting the speculation run wild for an hour, I posted 2 photos. One, a public MLS listing screenshot for the Elm Street property, showing its sale price and date. The other, a screenshot, blurred but recognizable, from the county assessor's website, showing the suspiciously low tax assessment Stacy had boasted about adjusting for that period. The juxtaposition was damning. The digital explosion was immense. The post went viral within the Ridgewood community. People tagged local news outlets. Comments ranged from outrage, investigate Davenport Realty now, to schadenfreude. Knew she was too good to be true. Stacy's Instagram went private, then dark. Brenda's account disappeared entirely. The real-world fallout was swift and brutal. The next PTA meeting was cancelled. A formal inquiry was launched by the school board into PTA finances and Davenport Realty's dealings with the district. Stacy was asked to step aside temporarily from her PTA presidency. Rumors swirled about a potential IRS audit. The veneer wasn't just cracked, it was pulverized. I watched it unfold from the sidelines. Queen Bee confession silent now, its work done. There was no triumphant glee, only a cold, deep satisfaction. The revenge wasn't violent, it wasn't illegal, technically, but it was devastatingly effective. I had used their own weapons, image, influence, secrecy, and turned them against them with surgical precision. A week later, Jake came home looking different, lighter. He didn't bounce, but the awful, defeated slump was gone. He dropped his backpack and looked at me, really looked at me, for the first time in months. "The Jake the Joke page is gone," he said quietly. "Like, really gone. And Chloe and Harper? They got suspended. Something about creating a hostile environment. They're not even talking to anyone. It's like they're invisible now." He didn't know. He would never know what I did. He just knew the monsters had retreated. "Good," I said, pulling him into a hug, breathing in the scent of his shampoo, feeling the solid warmth of him. "That's really good, sweetheart." Later that evening, as I washed dishes, my phone buzzed. An unknown number, a text message. Just 2 words. "We know." A chill snaked down my spine, colder than any I'd felt before. I stared at the screen. Was it Stacy? Brenda? One of their minions? A threat? An acknowledgement? My hand trembled slightly as I deleted the message, blocking the number instantly. The ice shards of fear tried to reform, but I forced them down. I looked out the kitchen window at the quiet street. The sweet taste of victory was momentarily tinged with something else. The sharp tang of vigilance. The hive might be scattered, but wasps could still sting. They knew the sting of exposure now. They knew someone had fought back. A slow, small smile touched my lips, not triumphant, not cruel, just resolute. Let them know. Let them wonder. Let them live with the fear that the quiet observer, the invisible force, was still out there, watching. I dried my hands and walked towards Jake's room. He was sprawled on his floor, surrounded by star charts, explaining the life cycle of a red giant to a patient-looking Pluto plushie. The light was back in his eyes. The digital noose was gone. The cost? Maybe. The fear? A small price. Seeing him like this, engrossed in his universe, safe for now in his own orbit, that was the sweetest revenge of all, and I'd pay it again, in a heartbeat. For him, the quiet fury of a mother was an endless, silent supernova, ready to ignite, ready to protect. The game wasn't over, perhaps, but this round was decisively, deliciously mine. The sweetness lingered, a dark honey on the tongue, a promise whispered in the quiet hum of the night. Don't touch my son.